Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So it is Tier List Tuesday, and considering I've been counting down my top 50 prospects in the entire NHL on my Instagram, I thought it'd be a fun idea to give my updated prospect pool tier list across the league, tier listing every single team's prospect pool. And for this, for the definition of prospects, I'm going to be using a little bit of a different one than I used this past summer. For this, considering it's mid-season, I'm going to go with any player that has played less than 9 games, so anybody that's played more doesn't count, and is also not with their current NHL team playing at the NHL level. So a guy like Simon Nemec, I think he's at like 6 or 7 games right now, but he is playing with the NHL team and will continue to play. So I'm not counting him as a prospect. He's a full-time NHLer at this point. So without further ado, let's dive into the tier list. We got good, great, solid, meh, and bad. Up first, the Anaheim Ducks. They were pretty safely and great before the season, but after losing Leo Carlsson and Pavel Mintyukov, I'm going to put him in good. I still think they do have a good prospect pool. You look at it, Olen Zellweger is an absolute stud. Some other guys that they have as of right now, Carey Terrence, I believe, made the Team USA. So it's still a pretty deep prospect pool outside of Zellweger. They have a bunch of like first and second round talent, but it does lack those high-end guys like a Carlsson, like a Mintyukov. So I do think they bump down a tier lower. Next up, similar situation for the Arizona Coyotes. Obviously, Cooley graduated from the prospect pool. I'm going to still put him in great because a guy like Connor Geekie really has emerged as a stud. Simashev, not putting up great point totals in the KHL, but is a solid defensive force. And you look at a guy like Daniil Boot, has really been good in the KHL. He's putting almost half a point per game. So that big three is... They're in my top, I think, like 35 prospects in the entire NHL. So you have 3 of those guys, as well as the goalie that they took in the second round, Michael Hrbala. He's also very promising in terms of an eventual starter. So I really like their prospect pool. They're in great. Boston Bruins, not bad. Boston Bruins are in bad. Who's even? Fabian Lysell is their best prospect, and he would be a lot of teams like 4th or 5th best prospects. It's obvious with Matthew Poncher graduating out of their prospect pool. It's not a good look right now for the Boston Bruins. The Buffalo Sabres are still in great, even with a guy like Zach Benson graduating out of their prospect pool. Matthew Savoy is fantastic. Isaac Rosen was like point per game in the AHL. Yuri Kulich was also point per game in the AHL right now. They still have a lot of talent up and coming. Noah Ostlund, another guy. They have a bunch of former first round and solid second rounders to come. I still think they have a great prospect pool. Flames coming in this past, like, before the most recent draft would have been in like meh or bad. I think they did a very good job in the draft, though. They got a guy like Sam Honzek that I think can be a very good power forward. The guy that they got in the Toffoli trade, that 3rd round pick, Suniev, he's been almost point per game at the college level. The second rounder that they picked that year, Etienne Morin, I think I'm pronouncing that right. He's been over a point per game as a defenseman in the QMJHL. So they've actually rebounded pretty nice in terms of prospect pools, and especially after trading for even more picks this summer. Probably by the next time I do this come July, they're going to be in good, and if they get Macklin celebrating a top 3 pick, maybe even great. I don't know how they keep on doing it, but I really like the Carolina Hurricanes prospect pool. Like they're just going to be good forever. I know they're not that good right now, but I think they're still going to make the playoffs. You look at them right now, Alexander Nikishin has been one of the best defensemen in the entire KHL the past 2 years. Yes, he was a 2020 draftee, but still putting up the numbers that he has at the KHL is so impressive. Then you look at a guy like Cruz Lucius that they found in the 4th round's been great. Scott Moros has like 20 points in 15 games at the college level. He was a 2021 draftee. Jackson Blake's been another good college player for them. Bradley Nadeau, 30th overall, has been one of the best players in all of college hockey as an 18-year-old. They're absolutely stacked in terms of a prospect pool, considering they haven't picked like lower than 25th overall. They somehow have such a good prospect pool. Chicago Blackhawks were probably had the best prospect pool coming into the season when Bedard and Korchinski counted. They're still very elite, though. The Blackhawks still have a very good prospect pool. But you look at them, it's still a guy like an Oliver Moore that was 19th overall that kind of fell to them. Frank Nazar is looking much better this year after missing basically all of his freshman year. Sam Rinzel, Gavin Hayes ended up making the Team USA. Nick Lardis is a guy in the OHL that's scoring at a very high rate in terms of goal scoring. So they still have a very good prospect pool. They obviously don't have Bedard and Korchinski anymore, but they probably have 5 or 6 top 60 prospects in the entire NHL, top 75, so it's still a very good unit. The Avalanche, They were firmly in bad, but after getting Mikhail Guliev and Callum Ritchie in this most recent draft, I think that does kind of bump them out of bad. I have Guliev in my top 50. Callum Ritchie's probably a top 75 prospect pool. It could be a case for bad because there's not much after that, but I do like those two pieces a lot. Columbus is also a great prospect pool. This might be my most favorite. They did lose Jiricek, they did lose Fantilli, but you look at them right now, they have guys like Gavin Brindley, who's point per game in college. They got him in the second round. You look at Jordan Dumais, third round pick, last pick in the goddamn third round. He's been like the best player in the entire QMJHL the past 2 years. Denton Matichuk's been fantastic in the WHL this year. They are really loaded across the board for the most part. I'm forgetting some names, but they have an absolutely fantastic prospect pool. Dallas Stars, they're in solid. Stankoven's obviously an A-plus prospect. Past that, Bork is a 2020 guy. He is killing the AHL, but I think solid is fair. Leon Bichel's another name that you got to know there. Detroit Red Wings. Detroit are still in good. Marco Kasper hasn't been that good. Nate Danielson hasn't really taken that much of a step in the WHL. Still solid prospects. You look at a Simon Edvinsson. He's definitely an elite prospect. And they also have a bunch of other solid guys like Shea Bume, some other guy. Oh, Axel Sandin Pelika. How am I forgetting him? He's also a top 25 guy in my opinion, so it's definitely a good. You can maybe put him in great just because they have a large quantity of prospects right now, but I think good is fair. Oilers, bad. Xavier Bourgault's like their number one piece, and he's like a B prospect, so they have one of the worst in the entire league without a doubt. Florida, I'm going to go meh. Similarly to the Avalanche, they don't have a ton of quantity of prospects, but I really do like a guy like Jack Devine, who I think is leading all of college hockey in goals per game, and also a guy like Maki Samskovich. He's also been very good in the AHL, was great at college level last year. So they have two like B-plus guys right now, so I think that does kind of bring them out of bad. LA Kings is really the Brant Clark show. They did get a guy like Cohen Zimmer, and I think the second or third round most recently. He just racks up points. He might turn into something. But Brant Clark is like a bust-proof prospect, in my opinion. He's already over a point per game in the AHL after putting up over 2 points per game in the goddamn OHL last year. So I think he's that special of a prospect, in my opinion, that he kind of rises them all the way to solid. Minnesota Wild, they did lose Marco Rossi and obviously Brock Faber most recently to their prospect pool, but it's still one of the best prospect pools in the entire league. They got Jesper Wallstedt, arguably the best goalie prospect in the entire NHL. Danila Yurov, he's going to be very high on my top 50 list. The dude has 27 points in 32 KHL games. That is absolutely insane for a guy in his draft year +2. Somehow stole Riley Heidt with like the last pick in the second round. I know he has some skating concerns, but the dude, similarly to a Cohen Zimmer, I think they're on the same team. He absolutely just racks up points. I think he's leading the entire WHL in points. To get that with the last pick in the second round is extremely impressive. Then other guys like Liam Ogren that I think still going to be very good. Charlie Schrammel. They still have a fantastic prospect pool. The Montreal Canadiens, another great prospect pool. Obviously, some of their guys still haven't made it to the NHL level. Lane Hudson, arguably the best college defenseman, maybe even college player between him and probably his teammate Macklin Celebrini in the entire nation. David Reinbacher's still progressing pretty well. Joshua Waugh is a guy that has been tearing up the QMJHL and is also like point per game in the AHL. I'm forgetting some other pieces. Philip Meshar, been very good in the OHL as well. They're just kind of loaded across the board and very set in terms of the next 5 to 10 years. Nashville Predators, I think they do have kind of an underrated prospect pool, in my opinion. You look at it this year, they picked up Matthew Wood and Tanner Molendyk with, I think, the 15th and 24th overall picks. Those guys are progressing pretty well. I think they're going to be high-impact NHL players. Maybe not superstars, but definitely high impact. And you look at a guy that they got in the 7th round last year in Aiden Fink. This guy has been carrying Penn State. I think he has like 23 points in 18 games, top 10 in points per game in all of college hockey. To get that in the 7th round, he is a sick offensive talent, as well as having Joakim Kamel from last year's draft. He's been doing pretty well in the AHL in his draft year +2. And Yaroslav Askarov's one of the best prospects in all of hockey. So I think they have a very, very good kind of retool cooking right now. If they miss the playoffs this year and get another high draft pick, they're well on their way to kind of a successful retool if some of these guys pan out. New Jersey Devils, you could arguably put them in bad, especially without Simone Nemec. I'm going to put them in meh, just because Seamus Casey is a fantastic prospect. He pretty funny. Luke Hughes was the star on Michigan last year. He obviously leaves the NHL. Seamus Casey has really ran with that Luke Hughes role, and in the same draft year +2 that Hughes was in last year, Seamus Casey putting up like basically similar stats on a less talented Michigan team on the whole. The rest, not a lot else on that New Jersey prospect pool as of right now, but I still think Seamus Casey is good enough to kind of lift them out of the bad. Islanders, it's bad. I can talk about this pretty in depth. Obviously, Cale Odelius, solid prospect. He's actually been hurt for a little bit, so I don't know how well he's progressing right now. Who am I forgetting? Danny Nelson at Notre Dame's been doing pretty solid. William Dufour, Matthew Maggio, they haven't really panned out like you'd expect in the AHL. It's just a bunch of like B- to B prospects. They don't have any stud, like say, I think Guliev, I think Richie is better, Samskovich, Devine better, Casey obviously better. The Islanders just don't have a lot of elite talent. They have a couple average to above average prospects right now. The New York Rangers, it's really the Gabriel Perreault show. They don't have a lot of depth in terms of their prospect pool. Perreault is going to be pretty high, in my opinion. He's probably going to, I'll spoil it, he's going to be top 15 prospect as of right now. Brendan Ottman can still turn into something. He's doing pretty solid at the NHL level, but Gabriel Perreault really drags them out of the bad tier. Ottawa Senators, pretty safely in bad. Tyler Boucher is like their one elite prospect in the sense that he went top 10, even though he had no business to go top 10. They've really ran out of their prospect pool basically when Jake Sanderson came up. Philadelphia Flyers. I'm going with great for the Flyers. You look at it, Michkov and Cutter Gauthier might be the best 1-2 prospect duo in the entire NHL in terms of, spoiler alert, Michkov's going to be number 1 on my prospect rankings. He should be on everybody's number 1 in their prospect rankings. He has 26 points in 30 KHL games right now. Gauthier has been fantastic for BC, obviously, with those other 3 stud freshmen. And you look at it, a guy like Oliver Bonk has really taken that next step with the London Knights. Denver Barkey was a steal for them in the 3rd round. They traded for Massimo Rizzo this summer, who is leading the entire college hockey in points per game. They still have probably another 2 years of tanking, and they already have a fantastic prospect pool. It's very promising, and especially because Michkov's going to technically be a prospect for the next 2 years as well. They're going to probably be in great just because of Michkov and their other pieces for the next 2 cycles in terms of that. Next up, we got the Pittsburgh Penguins, and obviously I do like Braden Yeager as a prospect, but after that it is pretty sparse. Owen Pickering, their 2022 first-round pick, has not really taken a step where I can say he's going to be a legit top-pairing defenseman, even a good second-pair guy. I haven't really seen that out of him, at least definitely from an offensive standpoint. I don't really know his defensive metrics, but right now I would say they have a bad prospect pool. The San Jose Sharks, I'm going to go good right now, but again, this is a team that is rebuilding for the next 2 years. They're eventually going to get to great right now. Obviously, Will Smith. Quinn Musty was a guy that I was very high on in the draft process. He's putting up almost 2 points per game in the OHL right now. Luca Cagnani is a guy that they took in the 4th round. He's killing it in the WHL right now as a defenseman. And also a guy like Philip Bystead last year that they took. It's a very good prospect pool. If once they get another top 5 pick this year, it's probably going to shoot up into great. Seattle, I think Seattle might have the most underrated prospect pool right now in the entire NHL. I'm going to go with great. You look at it, Shane Wright is their blue chip prospect. After a pretty disappointing first kind of year in the NHL, he has found his role in the AHL. He's producing at a pretty high rate. Then they also got Carson Rakoff, who is absolutely killing the OHL. I think he's leading the entire OHL in scoring, at least definitely in goals. He has 31 goals in 31 games. He's been great. Edward Chalet has been pretty solid in the OHL. Yanni Niemann has been very good in Liga in terms of Finland. I think he has 22 points in 27 games against grown men. He was a 2022 second-round pick. Caden Price has been very good. I still think Lucas Dragicevic can be a pretty good power play quarterback kind of role. Not having the same production as last year, but I'm not ready to give up on him. Ty Nelson's a defenseman that's been playing very good in college hockey. And then Furcus has been fantastic in the WHL. There is a lot. Shane Wright's obviously their A- prospect, but then they have a bunch of other B to B plus guys, a ton. So I actually really like Seattle's prospect pool as of right now. St. Louis gets a good. They lack a Shane Wright kind of prospect, but I think they have a bunch of good, very good prospects. You look at them, obviously, Dalibor Dvorsky last year was their first-round pick at 10th overall. They had 2 other first-round picks in Theo Lidstein and, let me pull up his name right now, and Otto Stenberg. Those guys are progressing pretty solidly. Dvorsky's playing in the OHL right now with Quinn and Musty. Quinn and Musty's been the better player, but Dvorsky's been good in his own right. And then Jimmy Snuggerud, maybe kind of a Logan Cooley merchant at the NCAA's level. He's not having the same level of production, but still a very good prospect. Tampa probably gets bad. Yeah, Ethan Gauthier and Isaac Howard is basically their entire prospect pool. I don't think they're as good as, say, a Guliev and a Ritchie, but I can see why you'd have them in May. Same thing goes for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's basically Fraser Midden and Easton Cowan. I'm pretty high on Easton Cowan. Fraser Midden, so, but it's just kind of two guys, and it's not two high-level guys. Vancouver Canucks, I'm going to put them in solid. They're basically they have three very solid prospects. Obviously, Hunter Brustevich, killing it in the OHL. The Kitchener Rangers are an absolute wagon, so we'll see how sustainable that is. Tom Willander's been solid at Boston University, and then a guy like Jonathan Lekaramaki was pretty disappointing his first year in the SHL, but he has really bounced back. He has 10 goals, 6 assists in 24 games, so he's turned into a pretty solid prospect. They have 3 top 30 to 45 prospects, in my opinion, so you could probably put them in solid, or put them in good, but after those 3, it gets pretty sparse. Vegas Golden Knights, bad. They have David Enstrom. That's their one guy that they took in the first round, 32nd overall. He's doing okay over in Sweden, but nothing special. Capitals, I'm going to go solid as well. You look at it, Ryan Leonard, I like that pick. Andrew Crystal, I think, was kind of a steal. And then they got the guy, Ivan Mirshenko, or however you pronounce it. That's kind of their big 3 right now in terms of prospects. Also got a good defenseman in Ryan Chesley. It's solid. I gotta see Crystal kind of take that next step. He's in my top 40. He's number 40 or number 39. But I need to see how his skating will translate to the pro style of game instead of just the WHL is going to be very interesting. I think Ryan Leonard's teetering towards a blue chip prospect. He's very good. So I think overall it makes for a pretty solid prospect pool. And then the Winnipeg Jets. I actually really like the Winnipeg Jets prospect pool. They got a guy like Chaz Lucic was their 2021 first-round pick. He's doing pretty solid with the Manitoba Moose. Brad Lambert was their 2022. I thought he was one of the steals of the draft. He's been right around a point per game in the AHL in his draft +2. Rutger McGrody, fantastic in college. Obviously got hurt for a bit, but I think he's playing at the World Juniors. And then Colby Barlow, I wasn't as high as some others on him in the draft process, but I still think he is around the B to B+ prospect. But overall, here it is. Here's the full tier list. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about that? Who would you move up? Who would you move down? And I'll be seeing you in the next one.